Tonight, we're stepping into the most romantic city in history, but not the way you think, because the dating rituals of 1920s Paris were so bizarre, so wonderfully strange, that modern couples would be completely lost. Imagine receiving secret coded postcards or following elaborate cafe etiquette just to catch someone's eye. These weren't just customs, they were art forms of the heart. So settle in as we uncover the beautiful mysteries of Jazz Age romance. So take a deep breath, let your shoulders relax, and allow yourself to drift back to an era when love moved slowly and deliberately. This is Hearts in History, where we explore the tender stories that shaped human connection. If these tales of romance speak to your soul, consider subscribing to join us on more journeys through love's beautiful past. Now, close your eyes and let the cobblestones of Paris carry you away. Chapter 1: Arrival in the City of Love. The year is 1925, and Paris awakens like a lover stretching in golden morning light. Cobblestone streets shimmer with dew, while the city hums its eternal song of possibility. From Montmartre's winding paths to the grand boulevards, every corner whispers secrets of hearts about to collide. The air itself seems charged with romance, as if love were a perfume floating through the September breeze. Along the Seine, young artists carry their dreams in paint-stained pockets, while shopgirls hurry to work, their heels clicking rhythms against ancient stones. Each passerby is a story waiting to unfold, a romance yearning to bloom. The city pulses with jazz rhythms spilling from basement clubs, mixing with the soft murmur of cafe conversations, where glances linger just a heartbeat longer than proper, where possibility hangs in cigarette smoke. In a small cafe near Place Pigalle, steam rises from morning coffee like incense, blessing the day's first encounters. Patrons sit at marble tables, newspapers forgotten as they steal glances at strangers. This is where our story begins, where ordinary people become characters in love's grand theater, their hearts beating to the rhythm of a city that understood romance as both art and necessity, delicate and bold all at once. Meet Celeste, a milliner's assistant with fingers stained purple from ribbon dye. She walks these streets each morning, her eyes bright with dreams bigger than her tiny apartment. Then there's Henri, a jazz musician who plays piano until dawn, sleeping through sunrises but awakening to the magic of afternoon light, filtering through cafe windows. Two souls orbiting the same spaces, unaware their paths are destined to cross. And finally, Marcel, a postal clerk who knows every address in the 6th arrondissement by heart. He carries more than letters. He carries the secret longings of lovers, their coded messages, their desperate hopes folded into paper promises. He understands that in this city, love travels through ritual and symbol, through gestures so subtle they're almost invisible, yet powerful enough to change everything, forever. The morning sun climbs higher, casting warm sepia light across the city. Shop awnings flutter like prayer flags, while delivery boys weave between pedestrians, their bicycle bells chiming like wedding songs. This is Paris in its golden hour, when every shadow holds mystery. Every doorway promises adventure, and love feels as inevitable as the tide, pulling hearts together with gentle, irresistible force. In Café de Flore, the morning crowd settles into familiar rhythms. Businessmen fold newspapers with practiced precision, while artists sketch strangers in worn leather journals. Waiters glide between tables, carrying silver trays like offerings to the gods of conversation. Here, courtship follows unspoken rules. ancient as the city itself, rules that would seem impossibly quaint, beautifully complex, to modern lovers rushing through digital connections. The art of the glance, the poetry of the pause, the symphony of seemingly accidental encounters. These are the tools of 1920s romance, when catching someone's eye across a crowded room required strategy, patience, and a deep understanding of social choreography. Every gesture carried weight, every smile promised possibility. Love moved like a slow waltz, each step deliberate, each turn bringing hearts incrementally closer. Celeste arranged at ribbons in the shop window, her reflection catching sunlight like stained glass, while across the square, Henri tunes his piano, preparing for another evening of background melodies to other people's conversations, neither knowing they share the same morning routine, the same path to work, the same secret wish for connection, in a city full of strangers who might, with the right glance, become everything. Marcel sorts through postcards at the central post office, each one a tiny window into someone's heart, coded messages between lovers who must communicate in symbols, flowers pressed between pages, addresses written in careful script. He sees patterns in these paper trails of romance, understanding that love in this era requires patience, creativity, and a willingness to speak in metaphors rather than direct declarations. As afternoon approaches, the cafe culture begins its slow transformation. Morning businessmen yield tables to afternoon poets. Serious conversations soften into gentle flirtation. This is the golden hour for chance encounters, when proper ladies might accidentally drop handkerchiefs, when gentlemen might offer assistance with elaborate courtesy, when a simple request for sugar becomes an invitation to connection, sweet, tentative, full of possibility. The evening light grows warmer, painting everything in shades of amber and rose. Couples begin their slow promenades along the boulevards, arms linked with careful propriety, while jazz music drifts from open windows, mixing with laughter and the distant sound of church bells. This is when the city becomes a stage, and every resident, willing or not, becomes a player in love's eternal drama. Our three characters continue their separate orbits, unaware they're about to collide in ways that will challenge everything they thought they knew about love, about propriety, about the delicate balance between tradition and desire. Because in 1920s Paris, romance wasn't just about finding someone, it was about learning an entire language, a complex dance of symbols, gestures, and perfectly timed silences. Tomorrow, these cobblestone streets will witness rituals that would seem impossible to modern lovers, postcards written in secret codes, cafe conversations conducted entirely through meaningful glances, and courtship ceremonies so elaborate, so beautifully orchestrated, they transformed ordinary people into poets of the heart. But tonight, in this golden September evening, possibility hangs in the air like perfume, waiting to transform everything. Chapter 2: Coded Messages of the Heart. In the smoky cafes of 1920s Paris, love spoke a secret language. Young hearts discovered the thrilling art of coded postcards, a clandestine dance of symbols and hidden meanings that turned every corner, newsstand, into a gateway to romance. These weren't ordinary cards. They were vessels of desire, carrying whispered confessions disguised as innocent sketches. Each purchase felt like stepping into a conspiracy of the heart, where lovers became spies in their own beautiful game. The ritual began at dawn, when shopkeepers arranged their postcard displays like dealers shuffling a deck of possibilities. Roses meant passion, daisies spoke of new beginnings. But the real magic lived in the combinations. A butterfly near a clock suggested secret meetings, while a bird perched on a window promised letters to come. Young Parisians would study these arrangements with the intensity of scholars, their hearts racing as they decoded the grammar of longing. Picture Marie, 19 and breathless, standing before a carousel of cards on Rue de Rivoli, her gloved fingers trembling as she selected her weapon of choice. A simple postcard showing two swans on the Seine. To most it appeared innocent, but in the secret lexicon of lovers, swans meant devotion. The Seine whispered of meetings by moonlight. She purchased it with coins that felt heavy with possibility, each franc a small investment in her romantic future. The codes evolved daily, spread through whispered conversations in powder rooms and shared glances across dance floors. A red umbrella meant meet me when it rains, while a yellow one suggested caution, wait longer. A cat sitting upright spoke of independence, but a sleeping cat meant surrender to love. These symbols created an entire underground language where young people could express desires their parents would never understand. Rebellion disguised as innocent correspondence. The act of sending required ceremony. Marie would sit at her writing desk, ivory pen poised above cream paper, crafting messages that danced around truth without ever naming it. The weather has been lovely might mean her heart was sunny with thoughts of him, while I hope the rain stops soon, could signal her impatience for their next meeting, each word chosen like a jewel, polished until it caught the light of hidden meaning. Addressing the envelope became an art form itself. The slant of letters, the pressure of the pen, even the choice of postal stamp carried significance. A stamp placed upside down meant I love you desperately, while one position slightly askew suggested playful flirtation. Post office clerks became unwitting accomplices in these games of the heart, handling each envelope with the casual indifference of those who never suspected they carried declarations of war against loneliness. The waiting began the moment the card left her fingers, dropping into the mouth of the postbox. Felt like releasing a bird into an uncertain sky. Would it reach its destination? Would he understand her coded plea? The next days stretched like elastic, each footstep of the postman sending electricity through her veins. She would position herself near windows, pretending to read, while actually watching for that familiar blue uniform approaching her door. Henri received her card on a Tuesday morning, the swans on the Seine staring back at him like messengers from another world. His pulse quickened as he deciphered her meaning. Devotion, moonlit meetings. His bachelor apartment suddenly felt too small to contain his expanding heart. He traced the image with his finger, memorizing every curve of the swans' necks, understanding that she had chosen this card specifically for him, a secret meant only for his eyes. The response required even greater artistry. Henry spent hours selecting the perfect reply, finally choosing a postcard depicting the Eiffel Tower at twilight, not for its obvious beauty, but for its coded meaning. The tower at dusk meant, I will wait for you at our special place, while the purple sky suggested romance was in the air. He wrote carefully, Paris is most beautiful when the sun sets, knowing she would read it as his promise to meet her. The Café Society buzzed with these secret exchanges. Friends would gather to decode each other's correspondence, like archaeologists examining ancient artifacts. Look how he signed his name, one might whisper. The flourish on the final letter means he's thinking of marriage. They created guidebooks of the heart, passing down interpretations like family recipes, each generation adding new symbols to the ever-expanding vocabulary of veiled affection. Not every message found its mark. Some cards were intercepted by suspicious parents, others lost in the maze of Parisian postal routes. Broken codes led to misunderstandings. A butterfly intended to suggest transformation might be read as fickleness. These miscommunications created their own poetry. Lovers learning that sometimes the most beautiful aspect of secret language was its beautiful imperfection, the risk that made every successful exchange feel like a small miracle. The thrill lay not just in sending, but in the delicious uncertainty of interpretation. Was that rose on his latest card red or deep pink? Did it matter if the butterfly's wings were spread wide or folded? These details carried the weight of entire conversations. Young lovers became detectives of their own emotions, studying each card like cryptographers working to crack the ultimate code, the password that would unlock another person's heart. Mary's collection grew, each card a chapter in her unfolding love story. She kept them in a silk-lined box beneath her bed, arranged chronologically, like a diary written in pictures and symbols. On lonely evenings, she would spread them across her coverlet, reliving each moment of anticipation, each burst of joy when his meaning became clear. These cards were more than correspondence. They were artifacts of her awakening heart. As autumn settled over Paris, their coded conversations grew bolder, more intimate, and Rai began incorporating tiny sketches into his messages. A crescent moon drawn beside his signature meant he dreamed of her, while a small star suggested she was his guiding light. Mary responded with her own artistic flourishes, pressing real flower petals between her pages, letting nature itself become part of their secret alphabet. Dried violets, speaking of faithful love. Their friends watched with growing curiosity. Marie's mysterious smile when letters arrived, Henri's sudden interest in art and symbolism, the way they would both disappear from social gatherings to write, returning with ink-stained fingers and dreamy expressions. Love was transforming them into poets and artists, their relationship becoming a masterpiece created one coded message at a time, each exchange adding another brushstroke to their romantic portrait. Then, one November morning, Marie discovered something that stopped her heart. An unsigned card slipped under her door, depicting a single red rose against a starless night. No message, no signature, no postmark to trace its origin. Just that haunting image and the question that would torment her dreams. Who had sent this mysterious declaration, and what secrets did that lone rose in darkness conceal? Her coded world suddenly felt far more complicated than she had ever imagined. Chapter 3. Café Confessions. In the heart of 1920s Paris, something magical happens every morning. The city awakens not just to the aroma of fresh coffee, but to an elaborate dance of desire. Here, in these intimate spaces filled with marble-topped tables and wicker chairs, love takes on a rhythm all its own. Every glance carries intention. Every conversation holds promise. Welcome to the stage where hearts perform their most delicate ballet. Picture this, stepping through brass-framed doors into a world where cigarette smoke mingles with steaming espresso, where the gentle clink of porcelain becomes the soundtrack to whispered confessions. These weren't just places to drink coffee, they were theaters of the heart, stages where the art of courtship unfolded with practiced precision. Every morning brought new players to this romantic drama, each one hoping to master the delicate rules of Parisian love. The ritual began before dawn. Cafe owners would arrange their domain like directors preparing a stage. Small round tables, positioned just so, allowing for intimate conversation while maintaining the perfect distance for stolen glances, newspapers carefully placed, providing the excuse for lingering, for extending those precious moments when eyes might meet across the crowded room. Everything had purpose. Everything served the greater dance of attraction that would soon begin. By 8 in the morning, the cast assembled, artists with paint-stained fingers, clutching their morning café au lait, writers scribbling in worn leather journals, intellectuals debating politics with passionate gestures, and among them the quiet observers, those whose real purpose wasn't the coffee or the conversation, but the careful study of potential lovers, watching, waiting, learning the subtle language of Parisian romance that spoke louder than words. The first move was always the same: choosing your table with theatrical precision. Too eager, and you'd appear desperate. Too aloof, and you'd miss your chance entirely. The perfect spot allowed you to see and be seen, close enough to the counter to engage the charming barista in conversation, positioned near the window where natural light would catch your profile. Every decision calculated, every gesture part of an elaborate performance of availability. Then came the newspapers. Le Figaro, Le Humanité. These weren't just sources of information, they were props in an elaborate courtship theater. A gentleman might raise his paper slightly, creating a barrier that invited curiosity. A lady might turn pages with deliberate slowness, allowing her bracelet to catch the morning light. Each rustle of paper, each turn of a page, another note in the symphony of subtle attraction. The conversations that bloomed in these spaces carried their own coded language. Discussing Picasso's latest exhibition wasn't just about art, it was about revealing your sophistication, your willingness to embrace the avant-garde. Debating the latest political scandal showed passion, intensity, the ability to engage with ideas beyond the ordinary. Even praising the perfect flakiness of a croissant became a declaration: I appreciate beauty in its simplest forms. Watch closely and you'd see the dance unfold: a dropped glove that required a gallant rescue, a book accidentally left behind on a neighboring table, a request to borrow the sugar bowl that led to extended conversation. These weren't coincidences, they were carefully orchestrated moments, each one designed to create connection without appearing forward, to bridge the space between strangers with the grace of apparent accident. The women of this era mastered the art of the meaningful glance, eyes that spoke volumes while lips remained properly silent, a flutter of lashes that could stop conversation mid-sentence, a smile that lingered just long enough to suggest possibility. They understood that in this theater of the heart, restraint was more powerful than boldness, mystery more alluring than revelation, leaving always wanting more, always wondering what if. The men played their own subtle game, adjusting their tie with studied nonchalance, ordering their coffee with just enough flair to draw attention, engaging in animated discussion about literature or jazz, all while maintaining peripheral awareness of every woman in the room. They understood that attraction required performance, that being worthy of attention meant demonstrating wit, sophistication, the ability to entertain and inspire in equal measure. As morning stretched into afternoon, the stakes grew higher. Regular customers knew each other's habits, preferred tables, usual orders. This familiarity bred both opportunity and challenge. How do you surprise someone who sees you every day? How do you create magic in the midst of routine? The answer lay in subtle variations: a new scarf, a different route to your table, small changes that whispered, "Notice me, see me anew." The afternoon brought its own rhythm, softer, more intimate than the bustling morning hours, Conversations grew longer, spaces between words filled with possibility. This was when the true confessions began, when guards lowered and hearts opened, when the careful dance of the morning gave way to genuine connection, when two people might discover, in the swirling steam of their coffee cups, something real emerging from all that beautiful pretense. But the most intriguing moments came when the lines blurred, when it became impossible to tell who was pursuing whom. She might choose the table directly in his line of sight. He might time his arrival to coincide with hers, both pretending coincidence while orchestrating encounter. This mutual choreography created something beautiful, a courtship where both parties participated equally, where power shifted like shadows across marble tabletops, keeping everyone guessing. The cafe owners watched it all with knowing smiles, understanding their establishments served a purpose far beyond serving coffee. They were matchmakers by proxy, curators of romantic possibility. They learned to read the signs, which regular customers held secret affections, which tables facilitated the most successful connections, which corners whispered the sweetest confessions. Their cafes became legendary, not just for their coffee, but for the love stories born within their walls. As evening approached, the successful couples would linger, sharing pastries and dreams, planning future meetings, discussing books they might read together, exhibitions they might attend, their voices growing softer, more intimate, while the unsuccessful suitors gathered their pride with their newspapers, already planning tomorrow's performance, already imagining new strategies for capturing hearts, because in 1920s Paris, every sunset promised another chance at love. So the next time you sit in a cafe, anywhere in the world, remember the ghosts of those Parisian lovers, feel the echoes of their whispered confessions, their stolen glances, their delicate dance of desire. Perhaps some magic lingers still, in the steam rising from your cup, in the gentle clink of porcelain, in the timeless hope that love, like the perfect espresso, might be just one conversation away. Chapter 4: Moonlit Summers on the Seine. As the warm breath of summer settles over Paris, the Seine transforms into a ribbon of liquid silver, reflecting the gentle glow of street lamps and stars. Above, lovers emerge from shadowy doorways, drawn to the water's edge like moths to flame. Here, beneath the dreamy embrace of Parisian moonlight, romance blooms in ways that would make even the most cynical heart skip a beat. The river calls to them softly, promising magic. Along the cobblestone banks, couples stroll hand in hand, their footsteps creating a gentle rhythm against the ancient stones. The warm summer air carries the scent of blooming linden trees and distant cafe cigarettes. Soft laughter dances on the breeze as lovers pause to whisper secrets only the moon can hear, their words weaving invisible threads of intimacy that bind their hearts closer. In this twilight hour, every glance feels electric, every touch sacred. From a distant bridge comes the haunting melody of an accordion, its notes floating like silk across the water's surface. Couples begin to sway instinctively, their bodies moving to this impromptu serenade. The music seems to awaken something primal and beautiful within them, as if the very soul of Paris is calling them to dance. Their movements are slow and deliberate, each step a prayer of devotion whispered through motion. Time itself seems to pause. Near the water's edge, wooden boats bob gently against weathered docks, their creaking sounds mixing with the soft lapping of waves. A young man helps his beloved step carefully into one of these vessels, her silk dress catching moonbeams as she settles onto the cushioned seat. He pushes off from shore with practiced ease, and suddenly They are floating, drifting into a world where only they exist, surrounded by liquid starlight. The oars cut through the water with barely a whisper, creating ripples that catch and scatter the moon's reflection into 1,000 dancing diamonds. She trails her fingers in the cool Seine, feeling the ancient current that has carried so many love stories before theirs. He rows with steady rhythm, his eyes never leaving her face, which glows ethereal in the silvery light. This moment feels infinite, suspended between earth and heaven. From somewhere along the banks comes the gentle strumming of a guitar, its melody weaving through the summer night like a lover's caress. The music seems to follow them as they drift, creating a soundtrack for their floating paradise. She hums softly along, her voice harmonizing with the distant strings. He stops rowing just to listen, letting the boat rock gently as they become part of this nocturnal symphony, pure magic flowing through the darkness. Back on the banks, other couples have discovered their own intimate spaces, tucked beneath weeping willows, whose branches create natural curtains of privacy. Here they exchange whispered confessions, their words soft as butterfly wings against eager ears. Each secret shared deepens their connection, binding them closer in the sacred ritual of vulnerability. The night keeps their promises safe, wrapped in shadows and starlight, love flourishing in these hidden alcoves. The summer breeze carries fragments of conversations, snippets of poetry recited in hushed tones, declarations of affection that make the very air shimmer with emotion. Lovers lean against ancient stone walls, their silhouettes merging into one graceful form, fingers intertwined, hearts beating in perfect synchronization. The city around them fades into insignificance, leaving only this moment, this connection, this beautiful surrender to something larger than themselves. A couple discovers a small cafe, still glowing warmly along the riverbank, its golden windows spilling light onto the water like liquid honey. They slip inside for wine and whispered conversations. The proprietor smiles, knowingly, recognizing the unmistakable signs of new love. He serves them quietly, understanding his role as guardian of this romantic sanctuary. Outside, the Seine continues its eternal flow, carrying their laughter out into the waiting night. As midnight approaches, the air grows cooler. Lovers draw closer together, sharing warmth and whispered endearments. Silk scarves flutter in the gentle breeze like prayer flags, marking these sacred moments of connection. The moon climbs higher, casting everything in ethereal silver light, transforming ordinary mortals into mythical beings. Each couple becomes part of an ancient story, written in starlight and sealed with the kiss of Parisian summer night. Near Pont Neuf, skilled dancers have claimed a small plaza, their movements fluid and hypnotic in the moonlight. Onlookers gather in appreciative silence, watching as passion transforms into poetry through motion. The dancers seem to float, their feet barely touching the cobblestones, as if love itself has lifted them beyond the constraints of gravity. Each turn, each dip, each embrace tells a story older than the stones beneath their feet. The guitar music grows stronger now, joined by a haunting violin from somewhere upstream. The combination creates a symphony that seems to rise from the very soul of the city. Couples everywhere begin to move, some dancing, others simply swaying in each other's arms. The music becomes a river of sound, flowing alongside the Seine, carrying their hearts toward something beautiful and eternal, toward love in its purest form. In the distance, the Eiffel Tower rises like an iron guardian, its latticed frame catching moonbeams and starlight. Lovers begin to drift toward this iconic symbol, drawn by some invisible magnetism, their footsteps quickening with anticipation, hands clasped tightly, hearts racing with the promise of something momentous about to unfold. The tower seems to call to them, offering its shadow as sanctuary for the deepest expressions of devotion. Beneath the towering iron architecture, lovers gather in reverent silence, the structure above them reaching toward heaven like a cathedral of steel, and dreams, here, surrounded by this monument to human ingenuity and ambition, they prepare to offer their own testament to love's enduring power. The moonlight filters through the iron latticework, creating patterns of light and shadow that dance across their upturned faces. Anticipation fills the warm summer air. The moment arrives, like a whispered prayer finally answered, beneath the watchful gaze of the Eiffel Tower, surrounded by the eternal flow of the Seine and the gentle benediction of moonlight. Two souls lean toward each other with infinite tenderness. Their lips meet in a kiss that seems to stop time itself. The world fades away, leaving only this perfect union, this sacred expression of love, witnessed by stars and iron and the ancient river flowing endlessly toward the sea. As their kiss deepens, the city seems to hold its breath. The guitar music swells like a blessing from heaven. The Seine reflects their silhouettes against the star-drunk sky, and for this one perfect moment, all of Paris becomes a cathedral of love. Every stone, every ripple, every beam of moonlight, serving as witness to this stolen kiss beneath the tower, this moment that will live forever in their hearts, immortal as the iron above and the flowing water below. Chapter 5. The Art of Love. In the smoke-filled ateliers of Montparnasse, art became more than decoration. It transformed into a secret language of the heart. Here, beneath the amber glow of gas lamps, painters and poets discovered something revolutionary, that desire could be captured in brushstrokes, that longing could live in verses. Canvas and paper became confessional booths where forbidden feelings found their voice. This was where love learned to speak without words. The bohemian quarters pulsed with creative energy. Artists gathered in cramped studios, their easels crowded together like conspirators plotting revolution. But this revolution was different. It was fought with palette knives and fountain pens. Every sketch passed between lovers carried hidden meaning. Every poem whispered in candlelit cafés held secrets the daylight world couldn't understand. Art had become the underground railroad for emotions society deemed too dangerous to express. Imagine receiving a drawing from your beloved, not a photograph, but something crafted by their own hand, every line deliberately placed, every shadow thoughtfully rendered. In 1920s Paris, such sketches were love letters written in charcoal and ink, the slight curve of a shoulder, the tilt of a head. These intimate details spoke volumes. Artists understood that to draw someone was to truly see them, to capture their essence on paper was the ultimate act of devotion. The cafe walls displayed more than mere paintings. They showcased windows into private worlds. A canvas depicting two figures sharing wine might seem innocent to strangers, but to those who knew the artist's story, it revealed everything. The brushstrokes themselves carried emotion, thick, passionate marks for intense feelings, delicate, whispered touches for tender moments. Art critics of the time didn't realize they were reviewing love letters disguised as exhibitions. Poetry readings in dimly lit salons became stages for emotional theater. Writers would stand before intimate audiences, their voices trembling as they recited verses. But listen carefully, these weren't just performances, they were public declarations of private feelings. A poem about spring rain might actually be about a stolen kiss. Metaphors of blooming flowers could mask burning passion. The audience became unwitting witnesses to confessions wrapped in beautiful language. Canvas held secrets that photographs never could. When Marcel painted his lover reading by the window, he captured more than her likeness. He painted the way afternoon light made her hair shine like spun gold, the gentle concentration on her face, the graceful curve of her fingers turning pages. These intimate observations, preserved in oil and pigment, became eternal love songs, paintings that would outlive both artist and muse, carrying their connection through time. The art studios buzzed with whispered collaborations. Models and artists developed relationships that transcended their professional roles. She might pose for his painting, but later he would model his heart for her poetry. Creative partnerships bloomed into romantic ones, two minds working in harmony, inspiring each other to reach new artistic heights. Their love became the fuel for their creativity, and their creativity became the expression of their love. A beautiful, endless cycle. Sketch pads became diaries of affection. Artists would carry small notebooks, filling them with quick drawings of their beloved throughout the day. A profile glimpsed across a crowded market, hands wrapped around a coffee cup, eyes reflecting lamplight during conversation. These weren't formal portraits, but stolen moments captured in graphite, intimate glimpses that revealed how love makes us notice the smallest, most beautiful details, how it transforms ordinary gestures into extraordinary memories. The sculptors worked differently. Their love took three-dimensional form. Clay responded to their touch like an extension of their emotions. Smooth curves for gentle feelings, sharp angles for passion. Every sculpture told a story of hands that had touched, of forms that had embraced. When Marguerite watched Henri shape clay at his wheel, she saw him molding their relationship, giving physical form to feelings that existed only in heartbeats and whispered promises. Literary salons became theaters of seduction. Writers gathered to share their latest works, but the real drama happened between the lines. A story about a character's longing might be the author's way of confessing their own desires. Listeners learned to decode these literary love letters, the way a poet's voice softened when reading certain passages, how their eyes found one particular face in the audience. Literature became a mirror reflecting the author's most vulnerable emotions. Watercolors captured the ethereal nature of new romance. Unlike oils with their bold statements, watercolors whispered. They bled into each other like emotions mixing in the heart. An artist might paint a garden scene, but the soft colors revealed the tender uncertainty of early love. The way pigments flowed together on wet paper mirrored how two lives began to blend. Watercolor love was gentle, impressionistic, beautiful in its temporary flowing nature. The power of art lay in its dual nature. It could inspire love and be inspired by love simultaneously. A painting of lovers dancing might make viewers long for their own romance, while the artist creating it poured their own romantic experiences onto the canvas. Art became both the cause and effect of love. Galleries filled with works that had sparked countless relationships, and relationships that had sparked countless works of art. Creation and connection forever intertwined. Music halls echoed with songs that carried secret messages. Composers embedded their love stories in melodies. A waltz might commemorate a first dance. A lullaby could express protective tenderness. Musicians understood that melody could reach places words couldn't touch. When Simone played piano in the small café, her fingers dancing across keys. She was really playing the rhythm of her heart, each note a confession, each chord a promise to the one who understood her musical language. Art critiques became emotional archaeology. Reviewers tried to understand the feelings behind the brushstrokes, but they often missed the real story. A painting dismissed as too sentimental might actually be a masterpiece of emotional honesty. Critics failed to realize that the most powerful art came from the most personal places, that vulnerability, not technique, created true beauty. The artists who dared to put their hearts on canvas created works that still move us decades later. The climax of our story comes in a small Montmartre studio. Candlelight flickers across easels and scattered poetry books. She had been his muse for months, posing for paintings, inspiring verses. But tonight, something changed. He set aside his brushes and picked up his pen. His hands trembled as he wrote, pouring months of unspoken feelings onto paper. This wasn't art for exhibition. This was art as revelation, pure, honest, vulnerable truth. He cleared his throat and began to read, his voice soft in the intimate space. The poem spoke of colors that reminded him of her laughter, of shadows that danced like her movements, of light that existed nowhere else but in her eyes. As his words filled the candlelit room, she understood this wasn't just poetry. It was his heart, finally finding courage to speak. Art had given him the language to say what fear had kept silent. Love at last had found its voice. Chapter 6: Whispers and Gossip in the Glittering Salons of 1920s Paris. Secrets float like cigarette smoke through the air. Conversations pause when certain names are whispered, and knowing glances pass between powder-dusted faces. Tonight we explore how love affairs became the currency of high society, where every stolen kiss was potential scandal, and every hushed conversation carried the weight of reputation. So settle in as we uncover the delicate art of Parisian gossip. The autumn of 1924 brought more than falling leaves to the grand boulevards. It brought whispers of Marguerite's afternoon visits to the Café de Flore, not for coffee, but for stolen moments with Henri Kai. Their lingering gazes hadn't gone unnoticed by the sharp-eyed matrons who frequented the same circles in drawing rooms across the 16th arrondissement. Fans fluttered with barely contained excitement, for scandal was the most delicious entertainment of all. Madame Beaumont's Thursday salon became the epicenter of speculation. Ladies in beaded gowns gathered around her ornate piano, their voices dropping to theatrical whispers. "Have you seen how she looks at him during the waltz?" they murmured, their words wrapped in silk scarves and perfumed gloves, each detail dissected with the precision of surgeons. Yet beneath their excitement lay genuine concern, for in their world, reputation was more fragile than spun glass. The coded language of Parisian society bloomed like secret flowers in their conversations. "She seems tired lately," meant distracted by love. "He's been quite absent-minded," suggested romantic preoccupation. These gentle euphemisms allowed proper ladies to discuss improper subjects, while maintaining their veneer of respectability. It was a delicate dance of words, where meaning lived in the spaces between syllables, and truth hid behind painted fans and knowing smiles. Behind velvet curtains in her boudoir, Marguerite pressed Henri's latest letter to her heart, unaware that her maid, Claire, had noticed the careful way she hid these precious notes. Claire, loyal but human, couldn't resist sharing her observations with the cook, who whispered to the gardener, who mentioned it to the driver. Thus began the invisible network that would carry their secret through Paris like wildfire through autumn leaves. The weight of watching eyes began to press upon Henri's shoulders like a heavy coat. He felt the scrutiny in every ballroom, sensed the paused conversations. When he entered, his usual confidence wavered as he navigated the treacherous waters of high society, where every smile might mask judgment, every greeting carry hidden meaning. Love, he realized, was not just a private matter, but a public performance with the highest possible stakes. At the Opera Garnier, during a particularly dramatic aria, heads turned not toward the stage, but toward Box 14, where Marguerite sat with her husband. Yet her opera glasses seemed trained not on the performers, but on Box 22, where Henri fidgeted with his program. The entire audience became unwitting witnesses to their silent communication, each stolen glance, a word in their forbidden conversation. Love played out in stolen moments between acts. The gossip transformed from entertainment into something more dangerous. Whispers became weapons wielded by those who coveted Marguerite's position or envied Henri's charm. Countess Dubois, with her calculating smile, began collecting these rumors like precious jewels, storing them away for the perfect moment when they might serve her own ambitions. In this game of hearts and politics, love was both the prize and the peril. Marguerite's husband, Antoine, remained blissfully unaware, lost in his world of business dealings and political discussions. His trust in his wife was both touching and tragic, while she struggled with guilt that grew heavier each day. Her love for Henri was real, passionate, consuming, yet her fondness for Antoine ran deep as well. Torn between duty and desire, she existed in a constant state of beautiful torment. The lovers developed their own secret language of survival. A dropped handkerchief meant "I think of you." A particular way of arranging flowers in her garden spelled out meeting times. Even their choice of perfume carried messages. This elaborate system of codes allowed them to communicate under the very noses of their observers. Love found a way to flourish despite the suffocating attention, like roses growing through wrought iron gates. Henri's best friend, Philippe, watched with growing concern as the situation intensified. He saw the way Henri's hands trembled when sorting through morning correspondence, noticed the dark circles beneath his eyes from sleepless nights. Philippe understood the intoxication of forbidden love, but he also recognized the approaching storm. His loyalty pulled him between protecting his friend and preserving his friend's reputation, a choice no true friend should face. The pressure began manifesting in unexpected ways. Marguerite started avoiding her favorite haunts, fearful of chance encounters that might fuel more speculation. Henri grew short-tempered during business meetings, his mind elsewhere. Their love, once a source of joy, now carried the weight of constant vigilance. Every public appearance required careful choreography. Spontaneity died under the burden of society's relentless gaze, passion imprisoned by propriety. One November evening, as rain drummed against the windows of Café Procope, an anonymous note arrived for Marguerite. Its message was brief but chilling. Your secret walks are no longer secret. Her hands shook as she read those words. Someone had been watching more carefully than she'd imagined. The walls of discretion she'd built so carefully were crumbling. Fear crept into her heart like winter frost, beautiful and deadly. Henri received a similar warning the following morning, delivered with his breakfast on silver paper that seemed to mock the elegance of his surroundings. Discretion is advised. It read simply, yet those 3 words carried the weight of social ruin. He stared at his reflection in the coffee service, seeing not the confident man he'd once been, but someone trapped between love and survival, the gilded cage of high society closing around him. Their next meeting carried a different energy, desperation, replacing the intoxicating sweetness of early romance. They spoke in hurried whispers of possible solutions. Perhaps a trip to the countryside, maybe waiting until the gossip found fresher targets. But deep in their hearts, they knew the truth. Their love story was being written by forces beyond their control, by a society that demanded perfection while feeding on imperfection. As our lovers face the mounting pressure of exposure, we see how gossip became both weapon and shield in 1920s Paris. Whispers that started as entertainment now threaten to destroy lives, yet in their struggle, we witness the eternal tension between love and society, between personal happiness and public expectation. Tomorrow, we'll discover how far people will go to protect their secrets when whispers become storms. Chapter 7: The Jazz and Struggle. In the smoky embrace of Montmartre's underground clubs, where gaslight flickers against weathered brick walls, the syncopated heartbeat of jazz pulses through the night air. Here in 1920s Paris, music becomes more than entertainment. It transforms into a living, breathing language of the soul. Each note carries whispers of longing. Each rhythm speaks truths that words cannot express. As the saxophone weeps and the trumpet celebrates, hearts find their most honest voice. The music drifts through narrow cobblestone streets like a gentle river, drawing lovers, dreamers, and broken hearts into its warm current. In dimly lit cafés, where shadows dance with candlelight, jazz becomes the silent confidant to every whispered secret. It understands the weight of unspoken desires, the ache of distant memories. Here beneath the Parisian moon, strangers become kindred spirits, united by melodies that speak directly to their deepest longings. The music knows no judgment, only compassion. Watch as lovers sway together in the intimate spaces between tables, their bodies moving as one to the gentle pulse of brushed drums and walking bass lines. She rests her head against his shoulder, feeling his heartbeat synchronize with the rhythm. In these precious moments, nothing exists beyond the music and their shared breath. The world outside fades into insignificance. Here, in the sanctuary of sound, love finds its purest expression, unhurried, unguarded, utterly genuine. Time itself seems to slow and smile. For those carrying heavy burdens, jazz offers a different kind of embrace. The weary factory worker, still dusty from his shift, closes his eyes and lets the music wash over him. Each melodic phrase lifts away another worry. Each improvised solo reminds him that beauty still exists in an often harsh world. The music doesn't promise to solve his problems, but it offers something perhaps more precious, a few moments of transcendence where struggle transforms into something beautiful and meaningful. In the corner booth, she sits alone with her glass of wine and the mournful cry of the blues. The saxophone understands her recent heartbreak better than any friend could. Its voice mirrors her own inner landscape, and notes that bend and break, melodies that rise with hope only to fall with remembered pain. Yet there's comfort in this musical companionship. She's not alone in her sorrow. The blues remind her that heartbreak, too, can be beautiful, that pain shared becomes somehow more bearable. Across the room, new connections spark to life. Two strangers catch each other's eyes as the piano begins a tender ballad. Without words, they understand each other's loneliness. He extends his hand. She accepts with a shy smile. As they move together on the small dance floor, their story begins to write itself. The music serves as their first conversation, their bodies speaking a language older than words. In jazz clubs, love often begins with a shared understanding of rhythm and soul. Yet not every story here unfolds with gentle grace. At the bar, he drowns his sorrows in whiskey and the haunting wail of a trumpet. She left him for another, taking with her all the light he thought he possessed. The music doesn't mock his pain. Instead, it validates every ache, every bitter memory. The jazz understands that some nights are made for mourning, that healing sometimes requires dwelling fully in the depths before learning to rise again. Tonight, the music grieves with him, but then, as if summoned by the music itself, unexpected magic unfolds during a particularly moving piano solo. She finds the courage to cross the room, tapping him gently on the shoulder. She whispers the words she's carried in her heart for months. I've loved you since the first time we danced here. The jazz seems to hold its breath, waiting for his response. In the pause between notes, two lives hang in perfect balance, ready to be forever changed by one honest confession. The musicians on stage witness it all. With knowing smiles, they've seen countless hearts break and mend in the glow of stage lights. Their instruments have provided the soundtrack to 1,000 love stories. The bass player catches the pianist's eye and nods toward the couple, now embracing without missing a beat. They shift into La Vie en Rose, their music becoming a gentle blessing, a sonic embrace for two souls finding each other. They understand their role as silent guardians of romance. This is the beautiful paradox of 1920s Parisian jazz, how joy and sorrow dance together like old lovers who know each other's every step. The same melody that breaks one heart helps heal another. The rhythm that makes lovers sway also comforts the lonely in these smoky sanctuaries. Human emotion finds its most honest expression. Nothing is hidden, nothing is judged, only felt, shared, and transformed through the mysterious alchemy of music and human connection. Life in all its contradictory beauty. On the small dance floor, bodies become instruments themselves, expressing what words cannot capture. The way she tilts her head back in laughter as he spins her gently, the manner in which his hand finds the small of her back, pulling her close as the tempo slows. These are the unspoken conversations of the heart, the physical poetry of attraction, comfort, desire. Here, dancing isn't performance, it's communion. Two souls learning the language of each other's movements, writing their story in graceful steps and shared breath. As the evening deepens and the crowds thin, the music takes on a more intimate quality. The remaining couples seem to glow in the amber light, wrapped in their own private worlds. He hums along to the melody while she traces patterns on his chest. Their love story has become part of tonight's soundtrack. The jazz embraces them like a warm blanket, creating a cocoon of sound where only they exist. Outside, Paris sleeps, but here, love stays awake, cradled by gentle rhythms and whispered promises. In these underground havens, social boundaries dissolve like sugar and wine. The wealthy merchant's daughter dances with the struggling artist, their different worlds bridged by a shared love of music. Jazz recognizes no class distinctions, no social hierarchies, only the universal language of human feeling. The rhythm that moves her expensive silk dress moves his worn cotton shirt with equal grace. Here, in the democracy of melody, all hearts beat to the same beautiful, imperfect tempo. Love knows no social borders. Watch how the music heals in ways that medicine cannot. The war veteran, haunted by memories of distant battlefields, finds peace in the gentle swing of brushed drums. The rhythm reminds his nervous system how to relax again, how to exist without constant vigilance. Each melodic phrase helps rewire pathways of fear into channels of hope. The jazz doesn't erase his scars, but it teaches him that wounded hearts can still dance, that healing happens one note, one breath, one moment at a time. As the final set begins, the atmosphere grows thick with bittersweet knowing. Last dances carry extra tenderness. Final kisses taste of both gratitude and goodbye. The musicians pour their souls into these closing songs, understanding they're providing the soundtrack to precious endings and new beginnings. Couples hold each other a little tighter, knowing the night can't last forever, but the music promises them something eternal. These moments, crystallized in melody, will echo in their hearts long after the last note fades. And so, as dawn begins to paint the Parisian sky with gentle pastels, the jazz clubs release their secrets into the morning air. Lovers emerge hand in hand, their hearts still humming with remembered melodies. The lonely return to their rooms, somehow less alone, carrying new rhythms in their souls. The music has done its ancient work, transforming struggle into beauty, loneliness into connection, heartbreak into hope. This is jazz's greatest gift, reminding us that every human story deserves its own soundtrack and every heart its own song. Chapter 8: Lovers and Friends. In the smoky cabarets of Montparnasse, something beautiful bloomed alongside romance, friendship, not the fleeting acquaintances of polite society, but deep bonds forged in the crucible of jazz-age passion. As couples danced and hearts broke, another kind of love emerged, the steadfast devotion of friends who understood that sometimes the greatest romance is found in the gentle embrace of platonic affection. Tonight, we explore these tender alliances. Picture the dim corners of Café de Flore, where aspiring poets and lovelorn artists gathered each evening, sharing more than coffee and cigarettes. They shared secrets, confessions that lovers couldn't bear to hear. Marie confides in Jacques about her heartbreak, while he speaks of his own unrequited love. These friendships became sanctuaries, safe harbors, where vulnerability wasn't weakness, but wisdom, where understanding flowed like wine between kindred spirits. The pursuit of love in 1920s Paris was never a solitary endeavor. Friends became co-conspirators in romance, helping decode mysterious glances across ballrooms, translating the subtle language of dropped handkerchiefs and lingering touches. They served as messengers between shy lovers, carrying notes scented with jasmine, arranging clandestine meetings in moonlit gardens, their loyalty extending beyond friendship into sacred alliance, binding them together through triumph and heartbreak alike. Shared laughter echoed through Parisian streets as friends gathered to dissect the evening's romantic adventures. They invented elaborate codes for their various suitors: Monsieur Moustache for the banker, the blue-eyed dreamer for the painter. These private jokes became their secret language, a world within a world where nothing was too sacred to be gently mocked, where even the deepest heartache could be soothed by the medicine of understanding smiles. When romance bloomed, friends celebrated together. When it withered, they mourned as one. Sylvie remembers the night her heart was broken by a charming violinist. Her friend Celeste stayed until dawn, brewing endless pots of tea, listening to every sob and sigh, offering tissues and wisdom in equal measure. These moments of pure compassion created bonds stronger than any romantic entanglement, friendships that would outlast every fleeting passion. The advice flowed freely among these circles of friends, whispered strategies for winning hearts, warnings about dangerous charmers, encouragements to be brave in love's pursuit. They became each other's romantic consultants, studying the art of seduction, like scholars examining ancient texts, sharing techniques for perfect lipstick application, debating the merits of mysterious silence versus playful banter, their collective wisdom becoming a treasured inheritance passed between generations of dreamers. Some friendships were born from romantic rivalry, competitors who discovered they preferred each other's company to fighting over fleeting lovers. Margot and Isabel both loved the same dashing journalist, yet found their conversations about him far more engaging than his actual presence. They realized their connection transcended any man's attention, choosing sisterhood over rivalry, their friendship becoming the love story neither had expected to write. Evening salons became laboratories of the heart, where friends gathered to analyze every gesture, every word, every meaningful pause in their romantic encounters. They created elaborate theories about love, debated the difference between passion and affection, between desire and devotion. These intellectual explorations deepened their bonds, transforming casual acquaintances into philosophical companions, united by their shared fascination with love's beautiful mysteries. The contrast between friendship and romance became increasingly clear. While lovers demanded exclusivity, friends offered acceptance. While romance required performance, friendship welcomed authenticity. In the arms of lovers, they played roles, mysterious seductresses, devoted companions, but with friends they could simply exist. Messy hair, tear-stained cheeks, vulnerable hearts exposed without fear. This sanctuary of acceptance became their most precious treasure. Letters between friends reveal the depth of these connections. Pages filled not with romantic declarations, but with gentle observations, concerns about each other's well being, celebrations of small victories, condolences for tiny defeats. They wrote about everything: the weather, a beautiful dress glimpsed in a shop window, a melancholy song heard at twilight. These mundane details woven into tapestries of genuine care, friendships documented in careful script. When couples quarreled, friends became mediators. When lovers parted, they offered shelter. When hearts healed, they celebrated recovery. They witnessed every stage of romantic cycles with patient understanding, never judging, always supporting, their presence a constant in lives otherwise marked by romantic turbulence, like steady lighthouses guiding ships through emotional storms, their reliability becoming the foundation upon which more adventurous hearts could safely explore. Group outings revealed friendship's particular magic: Sunday picnics in Bois de Boulogne, evening strolls along the Seine, visits to art exhibitions where they debated color and form with equal passion. These shared experiences created private worlds of inside jokes, remembered moments, gentle teasing about past romantic disasters, their collective memory becoming a treasure chest of joy, filled with laughter that echoed across decades. Some friends had known each other since childhood, their bonds predating romantic awakening. They remembered each other as gap-toothed children, sharing secrets in hidden garden corners, making solemn promises under starlight. These ancient connections provided unique comfort, a love uncomplicated by desire, rooted in history, strengthened by time, their friendship a continuous thread, weaving through life's changing patterns, unchanged by fashion, unthreatened by romantic competition. As the decade progressed, many romantic attachments faded, passionate affairs cooled, marriage proposals were withdrawn, hearts moved in new directions, but friendships endured, adapted, grew stronger. They became the constant stars in otherwise shifting skies. the reliable constants in lives marked by beautiful chaos, proof that some forms of love transcend passion, achieving something deeper, more lasting, more quietly miraculous than any romantic drama. Years later, when the jazz age became memory, when youthful passion gave way to mature understanding, these friends would gather again, their faces lined with experience, their voices softer with wisdom, but their connection unchanged. They would speak of those golden days with tender nostalgia, remembering not just the lovers who came and went, but the friendships that remained, the bonds that proved more durable than any romantic flame. And so we conclude with Marie and Celeste, childhood friends reunited after decades apart, meeting in the same cafe where they once shared romantic secrets, their hair now silver, their hands lined with age, but their eyes bright with recognition, with joy, with the particular happiness of souls who truly know each other, their embrace lasting longer than any kiss, their reunion a testament to friendship's quiet triumph, love's most enduring form. Chapter 9, Secrets Unveiled. Paris in the autumn of 1924 held its breath as morning mist clung to cobblestone streets. Somewhere in Montmartre, a coded postcard lay forgotten in a coat pocket, its cryptic symbols waiting to unlock hearts. The jazz clubs had fallen silent, but secrets never sleep. They whisper through the shadows of wrought iron balconies and dance between the golden leaves that spiral down from ancient plane trees. Tonight, one secret would finally find its way home. Madame Dubois adjusted her spectacles as she sorted through the morning post at her boarding house near Place du Tertre. Among bills and letters, something unusual caught her eye. A postcard with no signature, only strange symbols dancing across cream-colored paper. She had seen this mysterious script before, weeks ago, when a young artist had inquired about lost mail. Her weathered fingers traced the elegant curves of the coded message, wondering if fate had finally decided to play matchmaker. 3 floors above the cafe where lovers once whispered over cafe au lait, Henri sat sketching by his window. His heart still carried the weight of unsent words, unspoken feelings that had haunted him since that evening at the Moulin Rouge. He had written his confession in code, a private language learned from his grandfather's war letters, but the postcard had vanished into Paris's labyrinth of streets. Now, as autumn painted the city in amber and rust, hope seemed as distant as summer. A gentle knock echoed through Henri's modest apartment. Madame Dubois stood in the doorway, her eyes twinkling with the satisfaction of solving mysteries. In her outstretched hand lay the postcard, its coded message now a bridge between past and present. Henry's breath caught as he recognized his own careful handwriting, those symbols that spelled out everything his voice had been too afraid to say. Paris had finally returned his secret to him, weathered but unbroken. The postcard trembled in Henri's hands as he read his own coded confession, words of love written in the cipher his grandfather had taught him during long winter evenings. Each symbol represented not just letters, but pieces of his heart, he had tried to send to Celeste. Now, weeks later, fate had delivered his message back to him like an unopened gift. The question that haunted the Parisian afternoon was simple. Should secrets revealed too late still be delivered to their intended recipient? Across the winding streets of the Latin Quarter, Celeste sat in her favorite bookshop, lost in pages of poetry. She had tried to forget that mysterious artist who had captured her attention at the jazz club. Their brief encounter had felt like a dance interrupted, a song left unfinished. Little did she know that somewhere in Montmartre, her name was being written in careful script on an envelope. As Henri prepared to deliver the message, destiny had returned to him. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the bookshop windows as the proprietor handed Celeste an unexpected delivery, a cream-colored postcard with intricate symbols that seemed to dance across the surface like musical notes. Her fingers traced the mysterious code, wondering what secrets lay hidden in these elegant curves and careful dots. Something about the handwriting felt familiar, like a half-remembered melody that had been playing softly in the corners of her heart. Celeste's grandmother had once shown her a similar cipher during the war, symbols used by resistance fighters to send messages of hope through occupied territories. With growing excitement, she began to decode the mysterious postcard. Letter by letter, word by word, a confession emerged from the shadows. Someone had loved her from afar, had watched her read poetry in cafe windows, had memorized the way she laughed at jazz melodies floating through smoky club air. The decoded message revealed a soul laid bare. And Rye's words spoke of autumn evenings when he had watched her from across crowded rooms, of how her smile had become his compass through Paris's labyrinthine streets. Each symbol unveiled deeper layers of devotion, admiration for her kindness to street musicians, her way of making even strangers feel seen. Celeste's heart raced as she realized the mysterious artist from the jazz club had been carrying this secret like a prayer. Thunder rumbled over Parisian rooftops as Celeste clutched the decoded message to her chest. The revelation sent ripples through her carefully ordered world. She had been courted by others, had accepted invitations from persistent suitors, never knowing that someone had been loving her with such quiet intensity. The postcard had rewritten her understanding of recent months, transforming casual encounters into missed opportunities, chance meetings into destiny's gentle nudges toward an unexpected love. Rain began to patter against cafe windows as news of the decoded postcard spread through their small circle of friends at Le Chat Noir. Conversations buzzed with whispered speculations. Marcel, who had been courting Celeste with traditional flowers and formal calls, felt the ground shift beneath his feet. His confident pursuit now seemed clumsy compared to Henri's poetic devotion. Love's landscape had been redrawn with a single revelation, leaving everyone questioning what they thought they knew about romance. The evening descended over Paris like a velvet curtain, heavy with unspoken tensions. In Montmartre, Henri paced his small apartment, wondering if his secret had reached its destination. Across the city, Celeste sat by her window, watching raindrops race down glass panes like tears of joy. Between them, the coded postcard had become more than paper and ink. It was a bridge across the chasm of unspoken feelings, a key that had unlocked hearts neither had dared to fully open. As midnight approached, the weight of revelation settled over their circle like autumn mist. Other relationships suddenly seemed fragile, built on politeness rather than passion. Friends found themselves questioning their own romantic choices, wondering if they too had overlooked quiet devotion in favor of loud declarations, the coded postcard had done more than unite two hearts. It had exposed the difference between courtship performed for society and love whispered in the shadows of the soul. Something stirred in the pre-dawn darkness of Paris, a restlessness that had nothing to do with the weather. Marie, Celeste's closest friend, found herself unable to sleep, haunted by her own secrets. She had been watching the unfolding romance with growing unease, carrying a burden she could no longer bear. As the city slumbered, she made a decision that would soon add another layer to an already complex web of revelations. Dawn crept through Parisian streets as Marie stood outside Celeste's apartment, her heart hammering against her ribs. In her trembling hands lay another coded message, one she had written herself years ago but never sent. The courage that Henri's revelation had sparked in others now flowed through her veins like liquid fire. Some secrets, she realized, became poison when held too long. It was time to confess her own carefully guarded feelings. The morning light revealed a Paris transformed by truth. Three coded messages now existed in their small world, each one a testament to love's quiet persistence. As church bells chimed across ancient neighborhoods, the city seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see how these unveiled secrets would reshape hearts and lives. In jazz-era Paris, where romance danced between tradition and rebellion, the power of written words had proven stronger than spoken promises. Secrets, once revealed, could never return to shadow. Chapter 10. Masquerade Musings. The grand ballroom of the Hotel Meurice shimmers with golden light this October evening. In 1925, crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across marble floors as Paris's most enchanting souls gather for the season's most anticipated masquerade. Behind ornate Venetian masks, hearts beat with nervous excitement. Tonight, beneath veils of silk and secrets, love will speak in whispers, and confessions will flow like champagne in the city of light. The orchestra's gentle melody drifts through perfumed air. Violins weave tales of romance, while couples glide across polished floors in perfect harmony. Emerald gowns sweep past midnight blue tailcoats. Feathered masks nod in silent conversation. Here in this realm of mystery, identities blur and hearts speak more freely. The careful rules of Parisian courtship dissolve like sugar in absinthe, allowing souls to dance closer to truth than daylight ever permits. Near the grand staircase, a figure in a silver mask catches another's attention. Their eyes meet across the crowded ballroom. Recognition flickers beneath the disguise, yet neither moves. The safety of anonymity creates a tender tension. Will they approach? Will they speak? In this theater of hidden faces, even familiar lovers become strangers again, rediscovering each other through stolen glances and the language of careful gestures. Mystery makes the heart grow bolder. The champagne flows freely, loosening tongues that daylight keeps restrained. In secluded alcoves draped with burgundy velvet, confessions spill forth like water from broken dams. Lovers speak of dreams they've never dared voice, of fears that haunt their quiet moments. The mask becomes both shield and liberation, protecting while permitting, creating a sacred space where vulnerability feels safe, and hearts can finally exhale their deepest truths into the perfumed darkness. A woman in peacock blue approaches the terrace doors, her pearl mask catching moonlight. Behind her follows a gentleman whose identity she suspects but cannot confirm. They step onto the stone balcony overlooking the sign. The October air carries the scent of fallen leaves and distant wood smoke. Here beneath stars and shadow, Words flow more freely than wine. Tender admissions drift into the night air like autumn's first breath. Not all encounters unfold with such gentle grace. Near the refreshment table, heated whispers cut through the evening's harmony. A confrontation blooms between masked figures, jealousy and misunderstanding tangle like thorned roses. Yet even conflict takes on a different quality when faces remain hidden. Accusations feel less sharp, anger burns less bright. The mask offers protection even in discord, allowing hearts to speak difficult truths without the weight of visible shame. The waltz begins again, drawing quarreling souls back into rhythm's embrace. Music has always been Paris's great peacemaker. As couples return to the dance floor, tension dissolves into movement. Bodies remember harmony, even when hearts resist. The orchestra's gentle persistence weaves forgiveness through the air. Step by step, breath by breath, the evening's wounds begin to heal, transformed by melody into something more beautiful than before. In the powder room, women gather like conspirators, adjusting masks and sharing secrets. Their reflections create a gallery of mysterious beauties. Some recognize friends beneath the disguises, others remain delightfully anonymous. They speak of the evening's encounters, of hearts revealed and concealed, of love discovered and rediscovered. Here among mirrors and whispered confessions, sisterhood blooms in the most unexpected ways, united by mystery and moonlight. Meanwhile, gentlemen retreat to the smoking lounge where amber light filters through crystal decanters. Behind elaborate masks, they discuss the evening's revelations. Some speak of loves long cherished, others confess to hearts recently awakened. The cognac loosens their tongues as surely as the masks loosen their inhibitions. Vulnerability becomes acceptable when shared among shadows, creating bonds deeper than daylight friendships, forged in honesty and half light. As the night deepens, the ballroom transforms. What began as elegant theater evolves into something more profound. Masks no longer merely hide, they reveal, stripping away pretense to expose authentic souls. Lovers find courage to speak their hearts. Enemies discover compassion. Strangers become intimates. The masquerade works its ancient magic, proving that sometimes we must hide our faces to show our truest selves in the gentle darkness of anonymity. A clock chimes 11, sending ripples of anticipation through the gathered crowd. Midnight approaches with its promise of revelation. Couples steal final moments in shadow, knowing soon all will be exposed. Some rush to complete unfinished conversations. Others savor the last breath of mystery. The evening has woven its spell. Hearts have opened. Souls have touched. Now the question remains: will daylight diminish what darkness has created, or will love prove stronger than masks? The orchestra slows its tempo, drawing the evening toward its climactic moment. Couples move closer, as if proximity might preserve the night's magic. Whispered promises float on perfumed air. Hands clasp more tightly. Eyes search for reassurance behind elaborate disguises. The masquerade has become more than entertainment. It has become transformation, revealing not just faces, but the deepest chambers of the human heart, where love hides its most precious secrets. 11:30, the tension grows exquisite, like champagne bubbles rising toward their inevitable release. Some couples slip away to private corners, hoping to extend the evening's enchantment. Others gather closer to the ballroom's center, eager for revelation. The masks feel heavier now, weighted with the evening's accumulated secrets. Hearts beat like captive birds, knowing freedom approaches, but uncertain whether it brings joy or sorrow, hope or disappointment. The final dance begins, a slow waltz that carries the weight of conclusion. Partners hold each other closer, as if motion might stop time. The orchestra plays with bittersweet beauty, knowing their music shepherds endings as surely as beginnings. Across the ballroom floor, love stories reach their crescendo, some destined for happiness, others for heartbreak, but all transformed by this night of mystery, when masks allowed hearts to speak their native language. 11:58. The countdown begins in whispered numbers. Hearts flutter like autumn leaves in October wind. Hands reach toward mask ties, trembling with anticipation. The evening has built to this moment, when mystery yields to revelation, when shadow surrenders to light. The ballroom holds its breath, suspended between what was and what will be, knowing that in 2 minutes everything changes, and the masquerade becomes memory, preserved forever in perfumed twilight. Midnight strikes, and masks fall like autumn leaves, revealing faces flushed with emotion and truth. Some couples embrace with recognition, others step apart in surprise. The evening's confessions hang in the air, no longer protected by anonymity, yet something beautiful remains. The courage found in darkness, the honesty born of mystery, love discovered when least expected. As dawn approaches over 1920s Paris, hearts carry forward the masquerade's greatest gift, the knowledge that sometimes we must hide to truly be seen. Chapter 11. Winds of Change. The autumn of 1924 brought more than falling leaves to Paris. It carried whispers of transformation through the cobblestone streets and café terraces. Lovers who once shared secret glances across smoky jazz clubs now found themselves gazing in different directions. The city that had witnessed countless romantic beginnings was about to become the stage for necessary endings. Change was stirring in the Parisian air, gentle yet inevitable. In the golden glow of September afternoons, couples walked along the Seine with heavier hearts. Conversations that once flowed like wine now carried the weight of unspoken truths. The postcards they exchanged bore different messages, no longer filled with playful codes and romantic declarations, but with careful words that spoke of growing distance. Love letters became fewer, replaced by polite inquiries about health and weather. The language of passion was slowly giving way to the vocabulary of transition. At Café de Flore, the usual corner tables told stories of transformation, where once lovers lingered for hours over coffee and dreams. Now they sat with purpose, discussing practical matters. Futures that had once seemed intertwined now appeared to fork, like the paths through Jardin du Luxembourg. The intimate whispers gave way to earnest discussions, each couple navigating the delicate dance between holding on and letting go. Love was evolving, taking new shapes in the changing light. Marie Claire found herself staring at the letter in her hands. The familiar handwriting of her beloved Henri seemed different now, more formal, more distant. His words spoke of opportunities abroad, of dreams that required solitude. She understood, even as her heart ached. This was not abandonment, but growth. The realization that sometimes love means encouraging the other to soar, even if it means flying in opposite directions. Tears mixed with acceptance in the fading afternoon light. The jazz clubs of Montmartre witnessed different scenes that autumn. Couples who once danced until dawn now sat quietly, listening to melancholy melodies that mirrored their inner turmoil. The music seemed to understand their struggle, each note carrying the bittersweet recognition that love stories don't always end in forever. Sometimes they end in gratitude for what was shared. The saxophone wailed softly, embracing their transition with gentle understanding. Music became their companion through change. Pierre walked the boulevards alone for the first time in months. His steps echoed differently on the pavement, carrying the weight of a decision made with love. Choosing to pursue his art in Italy meant leaving behind the comfort of routine romance. Yet within the sadness, he felt a strange lightness, the knowledge that true love sometimes requires sacrifice, that growth demands courage. The city lights seemed to bless his solitary journey with understanding warmth. In the bookshops along the left bank, lovers browsed separately, now selecting volumes that would accompany them on individual journeys. Poetry collections that once fueled shared dreams now served as companions for solo reflections. The vendors noticed the change, the way couples lingered less, chose more carefully, as if preparing for different destinations. Literature became a bridge between who they were together and who they were becoming apart. Words offered solace in transformation. The flower markets of Paris bloomed with different meanings. Bouquets were chosen not for romantic gestures, but as gentle farewells. Roses carried messages of gratitude rather than passion. Forget-me-nots spoke of cherished memories. Violets whispered of new beginnings. The flower sellers understood this seasonal shift in the heart. They wrapped stems with extra care, knowing each arrangement carried the weight of both ending and hope. Beauty persisted through transition. Sunset walks along the Champs-Élysées took on new significance. Couples walked hand in hand, but their grip was different now, softer, more conscious, as if memorizing the feeling. Conversations turned to reminiscences rather than plans. They spoke of favorite moments, shared laughter, the growth they had experienced together. Each step carried them closer to understanding that their love story was evolving into something beautiful yet different. Gratitude filled the spaces between words. In the quiet corners of Notre Dame, prayers were whispered for strength and understanding. Lovers sought solace in ancient stones that had witnessed countless partings throughout the centuries. The cathedral's wisdom seemed to embrace their struggle with compassion. Stained glass windows cast colored light on their tears. Here, in this sacred space, they found peace with the knowledge that love takes many forms, some eternal, some temporal, all valuable in their own sacred way. The arrival of early winter brought clarity to uncertain hearts as leaves surrendered to the wind. Couples found the courage to speak truths they had been avoiding. Conversations took place in warm bistros over steaming coffee, voices gentle but honest. They spoke of dreams that required distance, of growth that demanded solitude, each word chosen with care, wrapped in love, even as it carried the message of necessary separation. Honesty became their gift to each other. At train stations throughout Paris, farewells took on deeper meaning. Platforms became stages for the most tender of partings. Lovers held each other longer, spoke more softly, memorized details they wanted to carry forward. These were not angry departures, but conscious choices made in love. The steam from departing trains seemed to carry their promises, to remember, to cherish, to honor what they had shared, to wish each other well on separate journeys. Letters began arriving from distant places, reports of new adventures, different landscapes, fresh possibilities. The correspondence carried no bitterness, only updates wrapped in continuing care. Former lovers became distant friends, sharing their growth across miles. The postmarks told stories of courage. Rome, London, New York, each location representing a dream pursued. Love had evolved into support, passion into blessing. The heart expanded to hold both memory and hope. In the galleries of Montparnasse, art reflected the season of the heart. Paintings captured the melancholy beauty of transition. Sculptures embodied the grace found in letting go. Artists understood that love and loss were often inseparable, that growth required space, that beauty could be found in endings as well as beginnings. The creative community embraced these themes with gentle understanding. Art became a mirror for the courage required in loving completely. As winter settled over the city, those who remained discovered new rhythms. Solitary walks revealed previously unnoticed details, the way light fell differently on empty cafe chairs, how music sounded when heard alone, the particular quiet of rooms that once echoed with shared laughter. These discoveries were not lonely, but revelatory, showing that love had taught them to see beauty more clearly, to appreciate both connection and independence with equal grace. The winds of change that swept through Paris in 1924 carried a profound lesson that love is not always about staying together, but about enabling each other to become. The city had witnessed couples transform their romantic love into something larger: respect, gratitude, blessing. The Jazz Age taught its lovers that the heart could hold multiple truths, cherishing what was while embracing what must be. In this wisdom, they found peace and hope for futures yet unwritten. Chapter 12: Stories of the Heart. Beneath the glamour of jazz-era Paris, hearts carried secrets too tender to speak aloud. In smoky cafés and moonlit boulevards, souls wrestled with feelings they dared not name. Tonight, we step beyond the rituals and traditions into the sacred chambers of the human heart, where love blooms in silence, where pain teaches us to be brave, and where every unspoken word holds the weight of eternity. Breathe deeply and listen. Mary sits by her window each evening, watching Pierre's silhouette pass beneath the street lamp. Her heart quickens with each footstep, yet he remains unaware of her presence. She pens letters she'll never send, filled with words that dance on the edge of confession. In the safety of solitude, she allows herself to dream, to imagine conversations they've never had, to feel the warmth of a love that exists only in the tender corners of her imagination. Antoine carries the weight of unrequited love like a stone in his chest. Each morning, he awakens hoping today will be different, that Celeste will see past friendship's comfortable veil. He watches her laugh with others, her eyes bright with possibilities that don't include him, yet he remains loyal in his devotion, patient in his pain, knowing that some loves are meant to be offerings rather than possessions, gifts given freely without expectation of return. Behind carefully painted smiles and fashionable facades, fears whisper their ancient warnings. What if vulnerability leads to abandonment? What if love proves too fragile for this harsh world? Isabel touches her grandmother's locket, remembering stories of heartbreak that echo through generations. She wants to love boldly, yet terror keeps her heart locked away. Safe but starving, protected but profoundly alone. Courage and fear dancing their eternal waltz within her trembling chest. Friendship fractures under love's complicated weight. Henry and Gabriel, once inseparable companions, now circle each other like wounded animals, both hearts claimed by the same enchanting smile. Their laughter has turned hollow, replaced by careful politeness and unspoken accusations. Loyalty battles desire in the quiet spaces between words. They discover that love can transform the closest bonds into painful distances, teaching them that some wounds cut deeper than romantic rejection. The masks we wear in love's delicate theater, each character plays their part with practiced precision. The confident suitor hiding desperate insecurity, the carefree socialite concealing profound loneliness, the sophisticated lover masking tender inexperience. In drawing rooms and dance halls, authentic selves remain carefully hidden, protected by layers of social grace and expected behavior, yet sometimes, in stolen glances and unguarded moments, truth shimmers through the performance like moonlight through lace curtains. Silent suffering becomes an art form in this world of elegant restraint. Vivienne perfects the smile that never quite reaches her eyes. She nods politely as friends speak of their romantic adventures, while her own heart bleeds in private. Each night, she tends to wounds no one sees, watering grief with tears shed only in darkness, learning that some pain is too intimate to share, too sacred to diminish with words, too personal to burden others with its weight. Yet within fragile hearts lies unexpected strength. Like flowers pushing through concrete, resilience blooms in the most unlikely places. Sophie rises each morning despite yesterday's rejection, tends to her broken dreams with the patience of a gardener. She discovers that heartbreak doesn't destroy, it transforms, teaching her to love more deeply, choose more wisely, and trust more carefully. Each scar becomes a testament to her capacity to heal, to hope, to begin again. The courage to love again after betrayal feels like stepping into a storm with arms outstretched. Bernard traces old wounds with gentle fingers, feeling where trust once lived. He watches new love approach like dawn after the longest night. Part of him wants to run, to protect what remains of his battered heart. Yet something deeper calls him forward, teaching him that healing happens not in hiding, but in the brave act of choosing vulnerability once more. Each heart becomes a unique landscape of emotion, rolling hills of hope, punctuated by valleys of despair, rivers of longing, winding through forests of memory. Some souls carry deserts of indifference, while others nurture gardens of compassion. Margot maps her inner terrain with artist's eyes, recognizing beauty in even her darkest corners, understanding that every feeling has its place, its purpose, its profound contribution to the magnificent geography of being human. Turmoil churns beneath polished surfaces, like storms beneath calm seas. Louis feels pulled in directions he cannot name, wanting love yet fearing its demands, craving connection while cherishing independence. His thoughts spiral between desire and duty, between passion and propriety. Sleep eludes him as competing voices wage war within his restless mind, each possibility carrying its own promise, its own peril, its own price too precious or painful to pay. Choosing vulnerability becomes an act of revolution against a world that prizes emotional armor. Catherine decides to speak her truth, despite trembling hands and racing heart. She removes the masks society expects her to wear, reveals the tender spaces she's protected so carefully, really discovers that authenticity terrifies and liberates in equal measure, learning that real courage isn't the absence of fear, but love expressed despite it, truth shared regardless of consequence. Unfelt pain lingers like shadows in corners of the soul, emotions pushed down, denied, ignored, until they crystallize into something harder and more dangerous than their original form. Julien carries grief he's never allowed himself to feel, anger he's never permitted himself to express, love he's never dared to acknowledge. Healing begins when he finally turns toward these abandoned feelings, welcoming them home, honoring their messages, learning their names. The journey of self-discovery unfolds through love's mirror. In romantic encounters, we meet aspects of ourselves previously unknown. Andre recognizes his capacity for jealousy, his need for reassurance, his deep well of tenderness he'd forgotten existed. Each relationship becomes a classroom where he learns not only about others, but about the mysterious landscape of his own heart. Discovering that loving another teaches us how to love ourselves. Empathy blooms when we recognize our shared humanity in love's struggles. Witnessing others' emotional journeys helps us understand our own. Amélie sees her reflection in every broken heart, her hope in every new romance, her fears in every hesitant glance. Connection deepens when we realize that beneath different stories lie universal truths, that pain and joy wear countless faces but speak the same eternal language, the language of the heart. In the end, emotional truth becomes the only currency that matters. Beyond social conventions and romantic rituals lies something more precious than gold, the authentic self that loves and hurts and hopes despite everything. These Parisian hearts teach us that feeling deeply is not weakness, but wisdom, that vulnerability is not fragility, but strength, that in choosing to love, to feel, to remain open, we choose to live fully, beautifully, courageously, human. Chapter 13, Songs of Departure. A single violin begins to sing, its voice threading through the Parisian twilight like silk through shadows. The melody carries stories of endings, of farewells whispered beneath street lamps, yet within each melancholic note lies something else: hope, promise, the gentle understanding that every goodbye opens a door to tomorrow. Tonight, we explore how love learns to let go, how hearts discover that releasing what was creates space for what will be. Settle in as we witness the bittersweet beauty of departure. In the cobblestone courtyards of Montmartre, couples gather for what they know will be their final dance. The jazz clubs pulse with music that speaks to souls preparing for change. She traces his jawline with trembling fingers, memorizing the curve of his smile. He breathes in her perfume, storing it in the chambers of memory. These lovers of 1920s Paris understand something profound, that true love sometimes means having the courage to say goodbye, to honor what was beautiful by letting it transform. The cafe windows fog with winter breath as she slides the letter across the marble table. His eyes scan the carefully chosen words, each sentence a small rebellion against permanence. My dearest, it begins, what we shared was real, but we are changing, and change demands honesty. The violin from the street musician below seems to understand, weaving through their silence with notes that speak of acceptance, of love mature enough to recognize its own seasons, to bloom, and when the time comes, to gracefully fade. She folds his shirts for the last time, running her palms over the familiar cotton, breathing in traces of his cologne that linger in the fabric. Tomorrow he sails for New York, chasing dreams that grew too large for their small Parisian apartment. Her heart breaks not from anger, but from understanding. Some dreams require distance, some love proves itself through release. The violin's melody drifts through their open window, a soundtrack for courage, for the kind of love that sets free what it cherishes most. At the train station, steam rises like prayers around their final embrace. The locomotive's whistle harmonizes with the street musician's violin, creating a symphony of departure. She presses a small envelope into his coat pocket. Inside, a photograph and 3 words. Remember us happy. He nods, understanding that this goodbye isn't erasure, but preservation. They are choosing to end their story while it still shines, to leave their love untainted by the slow erosion of resentment, to honor what was by protecting what will remain. The violin's voice grows softer as night deepens over the left bank. In a small apartment above a bakery, she sits by the window, watching rain create rivers on glass. His letter arrived this morning from across the ocean, filled with gratitude instead of regret. You taught me that love isn't possession, he wrote. It's celebration. She smiles through tears, understanding that their ending was also their gift. They loved completely without demanding forever. They learned that some chapters must close for new stories to begin. Friends gather at their usual table in Café de Flore, but the constellation has shifted. Some have married, some have moved away, others have simply grown into different versions of themselves. The waiter brings their customary order, but the laughter sounds different now, touched with nostalgia. They raise their glasses in a toast to what was and what will be, understanding that friendship, like love, must sometimes reinvent itself, must sometimes say goodbye to old patterns to make space for new connections. She closes the door to her art studio, paintbrushes clean, canvases covered, dreams carefully folded and stored in the chambers of memory. The violin from the street below seems to play her internal melody, notes of surrender that somehow sound like victory. After years of struggling artist's life, she's chosen security over uncertainty. But as she turns the key for the final time, she whispers a promise to the silence. This isn't abandonment, it's transformation. Some dreams sleep so that others can awaken. The bookshop owner arranges his final inventory, each volume, a conversation he shared with customers who became friends. Tomorrow the space becomes a dress shop, but tonight it remains a sanctuary of stories. The violin's melody seems to understand his bittersweet mood, playing funeral hymns for a chapter ending and birth songs for whatever comes next. He touches the spine of his favorite novel, whispering gratitude to all the words that sheltered dreams, to all the endings that taught him new beginnings, are always waiting. At midnight, the violin player finally rests his bow, his music having accompanied a dozen farewells, a score of new beginnings throughout this day of departures. He looks up at the apartment windows glowing with life, knowing that behind each light, someone is practicing the courage to let go, to say goodbye with grace instead of bitterness. His music tonight was a gift to all who love deeply enough to release what they cannot keep, to all who understand that endings are simply pauses between movements in love's endless symphony. She reads his final postcard from the ship. The ocean is vast, but not as vast as gratitude. His words ripple through her heart like stones in still water, creating circles of understanding that expand beyond their private goodbye. She realizes their love was never meant to be permanent. It was meant to be transformative, to teach them both that the heart's capacity grows not through holding tight, but through loving fully and releasing with grace. Their departure was their final gift to each other. The morning light finds her walking along the scene, footsteps marking time with the rhythm of acceptance. The violin's echo still lingers in memory, accompanying her internal music of change. She passes the bridge where they first kissed, the cafe where they shared dreams, the bookstall where they discovered their different paths. Each location holds love without pain, now transformed by goodbye into treasures that can never be lost, places where their story lives on, not as regret but as gratitude. In her new apartment across town, she unpacks carefully, creating space that honors both past and future. The photograph of them sits on her nightstand, not as shrine to what was lost, but as reminder of what was gained. The violin from a different street musician drifts through different windows now, playing different melodies for different hearts, learning the same lesson that love's greatest expression sometimes requires the courage to step back, to honor growth over comfort, to choose transformation over stagnation. Months later, she receives news of his success, galleries displaying his paintings, critics praising his vision. Her heart lifts with joy, unmarked by jealousy. This is love's victory, when release creates space for flourishing, when goodbye becomes the foundation for achievement. The violin music she hears now sounds different, filled with celebration instead of melancholy. She understands, finally, that their departure was love's way of ensuring both their stories could continue, that sometimes the most generous gift is an ending that sets everyone free. At the cafe where old friends occasionally gather, the conversations have deepened, marked by wisdom earned through loss and discovery. They speak of the people they used to be with, tenderness, honoring those versions while celebrating who they've become. The violin from the street creates soundtrack for their reflection, notes that weave together memory and hope. They raise glasses to absent friends, to ended chapters, to all the goodbyes that open space for new hellos, understanding that departure taught them love's most sophisticated lesson. As our chapter closes, the violin's final notes drift into silence, leaving behind not emptiness, but fullness, the kind that comes from understanding love's most paradoxical truth, that holding tight sometimes means letting go, that goodbye can be love's highest expression. Tonight, you've witnessed hearts brave enough to honor endings, souls wise enough to trust that every departure creates space for arrival. Rest now, knowing that in your own life, every sunset promises dawn, every farewell whispers welcome, every ending sings of new beginnings, waiting to unfold. Chapter 14, Renaissance of the Heart. As autumn leaves drift through Montmartre's winding streets, something magical stirs in the hearts of those who once believed love had passed them by. The jazz-soaked nights of Paris whisper promises of second chances. In cozy cafés where once tears fell, new smiles begin to bloom. The city itself seems to exhale, releasing old sorrows and breathing in fresh possibilities for connection and joy. Mary adjusts her hat in the morning light, stepping out of her apartment with purpose she hasn't felt in months. The heartbreak that once consumed her evenings has transformed into quiet strength. She walks past the cafe where coded postcards once arrived, no longer searching for messages that never came. Instead, she notices the warmth of strangers' smiles, the melody of accordion music floating from open windows. In the artist quarter, Henry sets up his easel with trembling hands, not from fear this time, but from excitement. The paintings that once reflected his melancholy now burst with vibrant colors of hope. Passers-by pause to admire his work, and for the first time in years, he finds himself explaining his art with genuine enthusiasm. His canvas becomes a mirror of Paris reborn. The bookshop on Rue de Seine welcomes new conversations. Emile, once withdrawn after his romantic disappointments, now engages customers with gentle curiosity about their literary tastes. He recommends poetry collections with renewed faith in love's possibilities. His fingers trace familiar spines of books that once offered solace, now serving as bridges to connect kindred spirits seeking their own renaissance. At the evening market, Celeste's laughter rings genuine for the first time since summer's painful farewell. She selects fresh flowers, not to mourn what's lost, but to celebrate what's awakening. A kind merchant offers her an extra bloom, their eyes meeting with the subtle recognition that both have known heartache and are ready for something sweeter. Possibility hangs in the lavender-scented air. The dancing halls of Pigalle pulse with different energy now. Couples move together without the desperate clinging of those afraid to lose. Instead, there's graceful confidence in shared rhythms. Mary finds herself accepting invitations to dance, not to forget her past, but to honor how it's shaped her capacity for deeper appreciation. Each waltz becomes a gentle declaration of renewed trust. Letters begin arriving again, but these carry different intentions, no longer coded messages of forbidden romance, but honest expressions of budding affection. Henry writes to a gallery owner who admired his recent work. Emile pens thoughtful responses to a regular customer's literary questions. Words become instruments of authentic connection rather than elaborate deception. Transparency replaces intrigue with something more substantial. Old friendships resurface like forgotten melodies. Celeste encounters her childhood friend Louise at a cafe near the Sorbonne. They recognize in each other's faces the wisdom that comes from surviving heartbreak. Their conversation flows easily, no longer needing to impress or compete. They laugh about their younger selves' romantic dramatics, grateful for the peace that follows storms. Mary visits her grandmother's favorite cafe, ordering the same lavender tea they once shared. The elderly proprietor remembers her tears from months past, now offering congratulations on her obvious renewal. She speaks of her grandmother's belief that hearts, like gardens, need periods of rest before new blooms appear. Wisdom passes between generations in the steam rising from delicate porcelain. Henri reconnects with fellow artists who scattered after the tumultuous summer. They gather in his studio, sharing canvases that reflect their individual journeys through darkness toward light. Each painting tells a story of transformation. Their artistic community rebuilds itself on foundations of mutual support rather than competitive jealousy. Creativity flourishes in this atmosphere of genuine encouragement and shared vulnerability. Dreams long abandoned begin stirring to life. Amy lusts off manuscripts he'd hidden away during his period of despair. His poetry, once bitter with disappointment, now flows with nuanced understanding of love's complexities. He submits work to literary magazines with quiet confidence. Rejection no longer feels like personal defeat, but simply part of the artistic journey. Celeste enrolls in evening classes at the Sorbonne, studying philosophy as she dreamed before romance consumed her focus. Walking through lecture halls, she feels her mind expanding beyond the narrow confines of romantic preoccupation. Knowledge becomes its own form of love affair. Her notebooks fill with ideas that have nothing to do with courtship rituals and everything to do with intellectual awakening. Marie applies for a position at a publishing house, her experience with coded correspondence proving valuable in editing romantic literature. She brings unique insight to manuscripts about love and loss, helping other writers craft stories that honor both passion and healing. Her own heartbreak becomes a bridge to understanding others' experiences. Professional purpose replaces romantic desperation with something more lasting. Paris itself seems to exhale and renew. The same streets that witnessed summer's dramatic departures now host gentle reunions and fresh encounters. Cafe owners report more genuine laughter, fewer desperate glances toward empty chairs. The city's rhythm shifts from frantic pursuit of elusive romance to appreciation for life's gentler pleasures. Even the Seine reflects different light. The art galleries of Montmartre showcase works celebrating resilience. Henri's paintings hang beside others depicting themes of renewal and hope. Visitors linger before canvases that capture the beauty found after heartbreak. The exhibits draw crowds seeking inspiration for their own journeys through loss toward rebirth. Art becomes medicine for collective wounds, offering evidence that Renaissance is possible. As winter approaches, our characters gather warmth, not from desperate romantic pursuits, but from rich, multi-layered lives they've built from heartbreak's ashes. They understand now that love's truest renaissance comes not from finding the perfect other, but from rediscovering the magnificent depths of their own souls. Paris whispers its ancient wisdom that every ending provides seeds for more beautiful beginnings. Chapter 15, Parisian Farewell. The morning light filters gently through lace curtains, painting the cobblestones in soft gold. After a night of jazz and laughter, Paris awakens with a tender sigh. The city seems to whisper secrets of hearts that danced until dawn. Couples who navigated the peculiar courtship rituals of this enchanting era now face the quiet reality of mourning. Some will choose love, others will choose dreams. All carry the magic of these strange and wonderful romantic traditions deep within their souls. The boulevards stretch empty and peaceful, holding the echoes of last night's revelry. Footsteps fade into memory as lovers who shared coded postcards and secret glances prepare for whatever comes next. In doorways where passionate declarations were whispered, only the scent of roses and cigarettes lingers. The morning after brings clarity to hearts that danced through the intricate maze of 1920s romance. Each couple must now decide, will they embrace the future together, or let the magic of Paris remain a beautiful dream? In a small cafe where it all began, Margot traces the rim of her coffee cup. Across from her, Henri's eyes hold the weight of unspoken words. They remember their first encounter here, the careful dance of glances and coded phrases that marked their courtship. Now, in the gentle morning light, they reach for each other's hands. The strange rituals that once seemed so important fade away. What remains is something deeper, simpler, two hearts that found their way through the beautiful maze of jazz-age romance. Not all stories end with reunited lovers. At the train station, Claude adjusts his coat and watches as Sylvie boards the morning express to London. They shared stolen moments in hidden speakeasies, danced to forbidden jazz, exchanged flowers with secret meanings, but dreams call from different directions. He kisses her gloved hand one final time, tasting the bittersweet flavor of love that bloomed beautifully but could not take root. Some connections are meant to be memories, perfect in their brief intensity. The memories crystallize like morning frost on window panes. Antoine remembers the thrill of decoding Celeste's postcards, each one a puzzle that led him deeper into her heart. The elaborate rules of courtship that once seemed so complex now feel like a beautiful game they played together. In his pocket, he still carries the dried violets she gave him on their third meeting. Symbols that once held coded meaning now simply speak of tenderness. Love found its way through the labyrinth of tradition. Paris in the morning light takes on the quality of an old photograph, sepia-toned and soft around the edges, like memories already becoming legend. The young couples who navigated the strange courtship customs of this golden age will carry these moments forever. The careful choreography of glances, the significance of flower colors, the secret languages of fans and handkerchiefs, all of it now wrapped in the warm glow of nostalgia, beautiful rituals that helped hearts find their way to each other. Bittersweet farewells echo through the quiet streets At the Pont Neuf, lovers say goodbye to dreams that didn't align, to futures that pulled them in different directions. Tears fall like morning dew, each drop carrying the weight of what might have been, yet there's beauty in these partings too. The knowledge that they loved deeply, if briefly, that they honored the elaborate rituals of their time while creating something uniquely their own. Some love stories are perfect precisely because they end at the right moment, but from every ending springs a new beginning. In the golden light of dawn, hope writes itself across the Parisian sky. Those who part carry with them the confidence of having loved and been loved. The skills they learned in navigating complex courtship will serve them well in future romances. They understand now that beneath all the rules and rituals lies something timeless, the human heart's endless capacity for connection. Paris has taught them that love finds a way, no matter how strange the customs. One by one, our characters step into their futures. Some walk hand in hand toward new adventures. Others stride confidently alone toward distant horizons. They carry themselves differently now, changed by the elaborate dance of Jazz Age romance. The woman who once trembled over the proper meaning of a yellow rose now moves with quiet assurance. The man who spent sleepless nights decoding postcards has learned that the heart speaks its own clear language. Paris has been their teacher, love their graduation gift. The rituals they followed seem almost quaint now. In the morning light, the elaborate rules about proper glove etiquette, the precise choreography of café courtship, the secret meanings embedded in everyday objects. Yet these strange customs served their purpose beautifully. They slowed love down, made it deliberate and precious, forced hearts to truly know themselves before offering their affection. In a world moving ever faster, perhaps there was wisdom in the careful coded romance of 1920s Paris, beauty in taking time to truly see each other. The impact of these experiences will ripple through their lives like stones dropped in still water. Years from now, they'll tell their children about the Paris of their youth, about postcards that carried more than words, about flowers that spoke in color-coded whispers. They'll describe the thrill of deciphering romantic puzzles, the sweet agony of courtship conducted in careful stages. These memories will become family legends, passed down like precious heirlooms, proof that love has always found ways to bloom, no matter how complex the garden. Through all the elaborate customs and strange traditions, something eternal remained constant. The flutter of recognition when eyes met across a crowded room, the quickening of pulse when beloved footsteps approached, the way laughter could bridge any gap between hearts. The coded postcards and secret flower languages were simply the costumes love wore in that particular era. Beneath the surface, the same ancient dance continued, two souls reaching for each other across the mystery of existence, finding connection despite all obstacles. The timeless nature of human connection shines through every memory, though the methods of courtship may have seemed wonderfully bizarre. The emotions they carried were utterly familiar: the nervousness of a first meeting, the joy of mutual understanding, the tender vulnerability of opening one's heart. These feelings transcend any era, any custom, any strange ritual. What changes are the outward forms, the flowers we choose, the messages we send, the dances we perform. But the core remains beautifully, eternally the same: love seeking love. Paris itself becomes a character in their stories, the city that provided the stage for these elaborate romantic dramas, with its winding streets and hidden courtyards, its cafes full of whispered secrets and speakeasies alive with forbidden music, the Seine flowing past like liquid time. carrying away the old conventions and bringing in the new. Paris understood that love needs both tradition and rebellion, both structure and freedom. It offered the perfect setting for hearts to navigate the beautiful complexity of human connection. As evening approaches, golden light bathes the city in warmth. Our characters walk toward the sunset, silhouetted against the amber sky, some in pairs, some alone, all transformed by their journey through the labyrinth of 1920s romance. They move with the grace of dancers who have learned difficult steps, the confidence of puzzle solvers who cracked love's most intricate codes. Behind them, Paris glows with the satisfaction of a teacher whose students have graduated. Ahead lies the rest of their lives, rich with possibility. And so our exploration comes to its gentle close, like the final notes of a jazz melody floating into the night air. The weird and wonderful dating rituals of 1920s Paris fade into history, but their essence remains. Love will always find ways to express itself, no matter how strange the customs of its time, in coded messages and secret signals, in elaborate rules and tender rebellion. The human heart writes its own beautiful story. Sleep well, knowing that love endures, timeless, patient, ever hopeful, always finding its way home.